I finally got a sub-10 3x3 average in a competition after 4 failed attempts. I've been cubing for 12 years, so I'm not just a kid who improved like a rocket. I'm an adult. I'm married, I have a job, and a life outside of cubing. So in this video, I'm going to show you everything you need so that if you do the work, you can get sub-10 on 3x3 in a competition. This video has 3 parts. First, the mindset. How do you need to think about this so you can do this journey well? Second, the knowledge and training you need to actually develop skill on 3x3. And third is competing well. How do you actually get results the day you show up to a competition? Let's jump in. First, your mindset. The biggest thing I would impress on anyone who wants to get sub-10 in a competition is that it will probably be harder than you think. Less than 2.8% of people who have done 3x3 at a competition are actually sub-10 officially. This is a difficult achievement, even among people who go to competitions. I recorded most of my journey doing this. All the videos are on my channel. Every week I put up an update about how I trained, how much I did. I tracked all of it. In April of 2024, when I was still cubing, I failed the sub-10 average in competition for the first time. I took a break from cubing for about a year and a half because of a move and meeting my future wife. In October of 2025, though, I picked cubing back up again to seriously start training. And when I first started in October, I was averaging mid-12. So for context, I learned to solve a cube when I was 10 years old, and from age 10 to age 20, I cubed off and on. For the last year of college, I cubed with the most devotion, and I got sub-10 at home, but failed to do it in competition. So when I picked the cube back up in October, I was averaging mid-12 seconds. I decided to learn how to solve on both white and yellow because I hadn't done that for the past 10 years. I put 24 hours in on 3x3 that month and about 1,000 solves, or 1,200. In November, I bumped up my practice time a lot. I did lots of focused practice on deepening how far I could see in inspection, training my F2L look ahead, doing PLL time attacks to turn quickly. And I got from mid-11 down to mid-10. And again, this is all de-rusting back to a previous skill that I'd built up. 48 hours of 3x3 practice this month, 2,600 solves. In December, I kept solving a lot, well over 50 hours of practice, approaching 3,000 solves if you include the stuff that I did casually on the couch and at competitions. I had my first competition back in December, and I had 2 massive fails of averages at that competition. I was so nervous. January, another over 2,000 solves and 30 hours of practice. I stopped doing my targeted inspection drills and F2L drills. In February, I put in another 26 hours of practice and another 2,400 solves. In total, I did almost 190 hours of 3x3 with total focus and plenty more outside of it, just fidgeting with the cube, between October, when I came back to cubing, and now when I've successfully gotten my sub-10 average. Over 12,000 3x3 solves very easily. 30 hours of all of this was very focused, targeted practice, not just doing solves. I had coaching sessions with several different top coaches, and even now, I don't average sub-10 at home. I average 10.4. It takes a ton of work to get to the point where you're capable of sub-10ing in competition. This is not an easy task. My goal going into this was I'm going to train to get to a major final, like European Championships or North American Championships in 3x3. And after doing this, I've realized that just getting to sub-10 is super hard. It's totally reframed how hard it is to become a world-class cuber, because just the journey of going from 12 to 10 was so difficult. And that was with years of prior experience getting me all the way down to about the 10-second mark. If you want to do this, you need to know that you're locking in for a long and hard grind. But I will say it was so worth it. The total joy I felt finally breaking this barrier was just massive. You can see it in my reaction in the video. And still today, it was so worth the work. It was so worth the years of effort. This may not be true for everybody, but at least for me, I care a lot about achievements and this feeling of winning and seeing my work pay off. And this is one of the most gratifying experiences that I've ever had in my entire life. So I have not a doubt in my mind that the work was worth it, even though it was super, super hard. So that's the first thing. Second thing, the time barrier of 10 seconds is not the goal to shoot for. Your goal needs to be massive, massive improvement. A lot of people in something like, let's say, losing weight are going to say, I want to get under 150 pounds on the scale. I want to weigh less than 180 pounds. and they'll starve themselves as they get close to their goal weight. Like, let's say they weigh 184 pounds one day. They'll barely eat any food for a couple of days, just barely dip below 180 pounds and go, I did it, I met the goal, and then skyrocket right back up. In cubing, I see people do something kind of similar when they approach a time barrier like sub-10. They might average 10.8 or 10.7 at home, and then they'll start just trying to do whatever it takes to get under 10 seconds in an average. They will spam turning instead of looking ahead well. They will use bad algorithms that they're more comfortable with, even though they know it's not good. They'll do whatever it takes just to get below the goal. Your mindset needs to be, I'm going to improve in a massive, massive way. My mindset was, I'm going to improve to the level of being in a major championship final. And it still took me forever to get sub-10. Your mindset should be long-term quality improvement, not just dipping below this time barrier. Number 3, you need to focus on quality, not on times. Just about everything with this time barrier is getting results from skill. You can't really get sub-10 just by forcing yourself to go faster. You have to develop a lot of skill with the cube, which we'll touch on later in the video, and let that skill turn into results. I was talking to Max Park's dad yesterday, and he told me that the mindset he tries to give competitors is, if you're in school and you're trying to get an A on homework, your goal should not be, I need to get an A on this entire assignment. It should be, do each problem well. And if you do every problem on the homework assignment well, the grade shows up at the end. With getting fast at 3x3, it's the same thing. Your mindset should constantly be high quality solve, good finger tricks, good look ahead, good execution, good fundamentals, and eventually the time will come. 4th thing, you need to be so good that you can get sub-10 instinctively. Here's what I mean. When I was averaging closer to 11 seconds and I would go to competitions, I would solve extremely actively. I would think really, really hard as I solved. My whole body was tense. I was trying super hard. What happens when you try that hard, though, is you start to get nervous. You start to make mistakes you wouldn't normally make at home. The goal is on autopilot by default to be able to get sub-10, so that when you're nervous and there's a competition environment going on around you and things are a little bit uncomfortable, you can still do it when the lights are on. A lot of people who I've talked to that are pushing for some particular time barrier say things like, I could do it if I get lucky. If I just lock in really, really well on competition day, I could do it. If the competition was run well and had competent judges, then maybe I could do it. That's not the point. You need to be so good that by pure instinct on autopilot mode, you can get sub-10. The 5th mindset thing is that the perceived difficulty of your solves will always be the same. I realized this after I got sub-10. But your overall goal, like I said, is that you should be able to naturally get sub-10. It should feel the same as everything else you've ever done. When I'm in the gym, when I first started lifting weights, it took every ounce of strength in me to curl a little 15-pound dumbbell. It felt like I was struggling against the world to lift that weight. Now, I can curl a 50 or 55-pound weight, and it feels like I'm struggling against the world, but I can do it. It feels the same difficulty of me now, years later, to lift a heavy weight versus lifting a lightweight. That's not because I have magically changed how heavy those weights are. It's because I've gotten stronger, but I'm still pushing myself to my absolute limit. The feeling of getting a sub-10 solve to me now is the same feeling I had 8 years ago pushing for a sub-45 solve. It will always feel like you're right up against the edge of your limit. That means that your goal should not be to find some hack that magically helps you lose the last second on your times. It should be to get so good that sub-10 naturally comes from that. Quick intermission. I'm sponsored by thecubicle.com. If you want to support me in what I do, use code TRUE at the Cubicle for 5% off your entire order. How do you develop that skill to the point where sub-10 flows naturally? That's the second part of this video. The knowledge and skill you need to get really, really good at 3x3. The first thing is learn your entire method. If you use CFOP, learn full OLL, learn full PLL. It shocks me how many kids are 11 seconds or 10 seconds and they haven't learned full OLL. Just learn the algorithms. It's a guaranteed drop in your times. The second fundamental thing is to use really, really good finger tricks for everything. This includes defaulting to home grip, which is thumbs on the front, pinkies on the bottom, other 3 fingers on the back of the cube. If you default to any other position for your turning, fix that right away. Use good U moves. Make sure you know how to use U2 flicks. So many cubers don't do that. Make sure that you do pinch U moves after an R turn. Make sure that you know how to do push U moves in the appropriate places, but you don't abuse them. Make sure that you're rotating well and not abusing it. Make sure you can do M2 flicks and D2 flicks. If you're pushing the sub 10 barrier, you know where your bad habits are on this list. You need to fix them. Third, optimize all your F2L algorithms. This was the single biggest thing for me that took me from 11 down to low 10. Literally go on a website like SpeedCubeDB, open up literally every single F2L case from every angle. This is going to be hundreds and hundreds of cases, and look at all the algorithms for every case. This took me a couple of weeks of an hour or two every day. I looked through over 300 algorithms. What that did for me was it poked holes in all the solutions I was doing that were not quite right. It didn't feel like I was memorizing 400 algorithms. It just felt like I was solidifying everything about my F2L. If you do this hard work, it will make your solutions so much better. In my SpeedCube bootcamp, I had one student who went from, he was averaging 17 at the start down to 15 after bootcamp. The one thing he did was that. He optimized all his F2L algorithms, and he showed me his SmartCube statistics from before and after bootcamp. He shaved off 15 moves per solve on average just by optimizing all his F2L algorithms, just by checking every single solution and seeing how he did with it. So if you haven't done this and you're trying to push sub 10, just do it. It's a super foundational thing. Fourth, train your eyes to look in the right places on the cube. Lots and lots of people, as they're sub 15, sub 12, pushing sub 10, they get the advice to slow down and look ahead. I always hated that advice because I didn't know what that actually meant. What do you mean look ahead? Look ahead at what? Well, Dylan Miller has a much more comprehensive video on this than I'm going to make here. But the fundamental idea is whenever you're solving the cube, your eyes should have a natural pattern of scanning. The first thing to look at is the front 5 pieces, the top front 3 pieces and the 2 edges on the top layer on the left and right. If you don't see an F2L pair there, then move your eyes to the top back corners. Then, if you still haven't found 2 F2L pieces to solve during F2L, move your eyes to the front 2 slots. And if you still haven't found an F2L pair to solve, you're probably in a bad spot where your pieces are trapped in the back slots. Don't literally tip the cube back and look back there. Just try to deduce what's back there based from what you can see on the left and right sides of the cube. And if you're still out of information, at that point, it's best to rotate the cube and find something. Train your eyes to follow this. Look at the top of the cube. Look at the front of the cube. Okay, now I need to figure out what's in the back of the cube. Still nothing. Now I'm going to rotate or tip the cube so I can see the back. Training this into your eyes to be instinctive, scanning the cube in a specific pattern to get information, was the second most impactful thing for me to help me get sub 10 in competition because it made my solves feel so much less frantic. Now when I solve, I'm not going, where's my next F2L pair? How am I supposed to look ahead right now? I just reset this flowchart every time I find information, and I start in the top layer and then look at the corners, then look at the front slots, and so on. If you can make this instinctive, your look ahead instinct becomes way, 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 way better. Fifth thing is have consistent execution across your solves. What I mean by this is a lot of cubers will learn a variety of algorithms for your last layer. You'll learn a PLL and then you'll relearn it. You'll learn an OLL and then you'll relearn it. If you do that, pick one algorithm and always stick with it. I did this so poorly on my journey. I learned an algorithm and then I switched it 4 weeks later. I learned a finger trick and then I switched it 2 weeks later. And then I switched back another week and a half later. Pick something and stick with it every time. If you know multiple executions for an algorithm, you better only be using one of those in every single solve. Otherwise, when you're under pressure and you see an algorithm, you're going to get super nervous and you're going to oscillate between the 2 possible ways of doing it in your brain and mess up. I did this on the last solve of my sub 10 average recently. You can see when I get to OLL, I look at the algorithm, I rotate one way, then I rotate the other way because I knew 2 different ways of solving it and I actively was using both in solves. So dumb. Brandon, don't do that. And you, don't do that. Sixth thing, get rid of obvious bad habits. It shocks me how many cubers know, oh yeah, I rotate more than I need to. Oh yeah, I have this bad F2L solution for this case. Oh yeah, I have this bad finger trick in my last layer. Just get rid of that stuff. You know it's a bad habit. If you're trying to get sub 10, it's going to be really hard to grind your way to sub 10 if there are obvious things slowing you down. Just Quit being lazy, remove the hunting U moves, remove the bad regrips, do the hard work of slow solves and keeping track of when you make mistakes until it is completely out of your solving. I had a crazy amount of bad habits. The finger tricks I used for turning the U layer, the rotations I did for certain F2L cases, bad solutions I did, certain PLL finger tricks that I did for AUFs and starting the algorithm. There were a bunch of micro habits I knew I had that I just had to do hard work to remove. Seventh thing, your inspection needs to be instinctive. This was the third biggest thing that helped me get faster. The biggest one was optimizing F2L. Second was look ahead flowchart. Third was this. If you're sub 15, sub 12, sub 10, a lot of people will tell you learn cross plus one, which means in inspection, be able to plan your cross and your first F2L pair. I think this is very bad advice for almost every cuber until they are 10 seconds or below. Here's why. First, can you see 5 move cross solutions in 5 seconds? If you don't know how to do this, go to a website like speedcubetrainer.com and go to the cross trainer that can generate easy crosses for you. So many cubers who want to learn cross plus one can't even find cross solutions in a couple of seconds. They can't instinctively do something really easy, which means they're not ready to push their brain to do something really, really hard. Or more than that, hey, if you want to learn cross plus one, can you see 7 move crosses, which are the hardest crosses you should reasonably doing in a solve, in 5 seconds or less? If not, you are not good enough at finding good cross solutions to be thinking about cross plus one. Even if you can do this, is your look ahead instinct really good? Do you have that pattern of moving your eyes to the top layer, then the front, then the back, over and over and over again in a cycle, or are you just frantically looking around? If these things are not already true for you, spending mental effort to learn how to see really deep into the solve will be totally wasted because you will be actively computing solutions in your solves instead of letting your instincts guide you. Active thinking will kill you in a competition. I'm able to plan cross plus one or more when I think really, really hard about it. I can visualize how pieces are moving around the cube and see an F2L pair or more into my solves. The problem with doing it, at least for me right now, is I have to think so hard about it that I turn really slow and I don't look ahead into the later parts of my solve. I'm thinking so actively that my instincts of turning fast and looking ahead get hindered. Cross plus one is important because it helps you look ahead further into your solve, but only if you are so good at it that you can do it purely instinctively. So if you want to learn cross plus one, that's fantastic. You should. I need to learn it if I want to keep improving. But when I say learn, I don't mean be able to do it in a trainer. I mean be able to do it instinctively like that. The fastest cubers in the world, like Madahiro Tuanaba, from talking to him, he picks up a cube and he said that within 5 seconds, he can see 2 pairs deep on the cube. That's crazy. He's not having to think actively about it. He said he only has to start actively tracing pieces around the cube after 2 pairs of inspection. If you have to think actively about your cross plus one, you shouldn't be trying to use it in official solves yet. Develop your instinction around lower levels of inspection first. That's what worked really well for me. The 8th knowledge and skill thing is you're going to have to train a lot for a long time. In order to improve at 3x3, you have to break the status quo. You have a bunch of habits that you've built up over the last months or years of solving the cube. Your brain really likes things to stay the same, and you're pushing to break probably the single most difficult time barrier in solving 3x3 because it's such a mental thing for most people. In order to break the status quo, you have to put in a ton of effort. This is true in all sorts of areas of life. If you're trying to go to the gym, it's really, really easy to stay the same level of strength that you were previously, but you have to do like 3 or 4 times that amount of effort in order to get stronger than maintenance. It's really, really easy to not gain weight or lose weight to just stay the same, but to lose weight, you have to eat way, way, way less food just to get your body to gradually lose weight. If you currently average 12 seconds on 3x3, you can stay averaging 12 seconds barely solving the cube, maybe doing 20 to 50 solves a week. If you want to get from 12 to 10, you saw my solve history. I did well over 10,000 solves of super, super focused effort, along with intentional practice and coaching sessions, and I'm still not sub 10 at home. You have to do so much work, and expect a lag time of something like 8 weeks before you're able to use the new skills you're developing consistently under pressure. So let's say you grind super, super hard for a month at 3x3 and you start to fix some of your bad habits, and then you go to a competition. A bunch of those bad habits are going to come back out when you're nervous. The best cubers, I've heard Timon Koleshinsky say this, I've heard Kevin Hayes say this, they don't change anything 6 months before a major championship. Kevin Hayes talks about using the fall and winter to develop a new style on big cubes, and then the spring and summer to lock it in before nationals or world championships. For me, I found it was 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less than 8 weeks, before a new habit I was developing was just stone cold locked into my solving. So you have to do a ton of work, and you have to stick with it for a long time before your solving actually changes. Another thing about this is that you are very much at the point of diminishing returns in your practice. When you first start learning CFOP, you improve so quickly because it's all new information. Everything you do is going to drop your times. When you're improving from 20 down to 15 or 12, it starts to get harder and harder and harder to improve. But when you get to the point of pushing for sub 10, the amount of solves you have to do to eke out improvement, the degree of specificity in the things you have to improve about your solves is so minute that it takes a lot of work to see drop in your times. So expect that you have to do way more work than you have before to improve, that you have to stick with it for way longer, and that you just have to do way more than it would take to maintain your prior level of skill. Last thing I would say to everybody is to track your training, please. I tracked everything about my journey from coming back in October until now. Every solve, how long I did it, why I was doing it, etc. And it helped me because I could look back at my solves over the last week and go, what worked and what didn't? How much did I cube? Did I improve? Do I need to do more training or keep it the same level? If you don't do this, it's really easy to go, yeah, I trained last week. And someone's like, well, how much? I mean, I did some solves most of the days, and then you actually look at your CS timer and you did solves on 3 days and you did about 500 solves in total. That's not that much if you're trying to get sub 10. So track it. Write the training down somewhere in a spreadsheet, in a website, in a timer, whatever, and have a specific written down goal that you're working toward each week. Last part of this video is on competing well. For me, this was the hardest part of these 3 to do well. The mindset, I was ready for hard work, and the training, I knew a lot of the information. I just couldn't string it together on competition day. The first thing I've learned about competing well is that the work is over at least 2 days before the competition. The days leading up to a competition are not really going to change your results if you practice more or practice less. All your habits are baked in. All your instincts are baked in. You're basically just tiring yourself out those last days before the competition. It's almost always better to rest up and just be ready to go all out on competition day. The second thing is when you sit down to solve, be comfortable getting yourself set up in your own way. Here's what I mean. When I sit down to solve, I'm complicated. I bring a seat cushion with me that's like 4 inches thick so that I sit higher up relative to the table. I have a camera that has a screen that's turned on the front until I start recording, and then the screen turns off so it's competition legal. But I have so many judges go, hey, you can't use that camera. And then I hit record and the screen turns off and they're like, oh, it's fine. But I have to push back against the judge for that. I take a drink of water. I take a little while to warm up with my cube. A bunch of judges, as soon as I sit down, they have their hand on the cover like, are you ready to go? No, I'm not ready. I don't need to be ready right now. I'm going to do some warm up. I'm going to drink some water. I'm going to take a couple deep breaths. Get super comfortable in a competition environment with taking your time, getting comfortable, and competing your way. You are allowed to do that. It's not inconveniencing anybody else if you take 10 extra seconds to get comfortable in your chair. The third thing, this is by far the most important in this section, is to determine your winning mindset. There are 2 main types of mindsets you can have when you're doing something that you care about in life. The first one is a locked-in mindset, and the second one is a mindset of just, I'm here to have fun. The locked-in mindset is one where you put lots of pressure on yourself because you're in a super high-stakes situation. If you lock in super hard, you're probably going to get tons of adrenaline. And if you like the locked-in mindset, you are somebody where if you get a rush of adrenaline, that's rocket fuel for you. You feel the adrenaline and you feel your senses sharpen. You know that you're going to be able to give whatever it is that you're doing your absolute best. I prefer the lock-in mindset for a few things. If I'm getting ready to give a big public speech, I love the adrenaline that comes with public speaking. It makes me so excited. I'm way more articulate when I have adrenaline. My mind moves way faster. I'm more energetic. I do better gestures. I connect with the audience better. If I'm powerlifting and I'm getting ready for a giant squat or a giant deadlift, I put earbuds in, I put music on, and I just focus up. I don't talk to anybody. I just stand in the corner and just think about exactly how I'm going to move the weight. I love the adrenaline. I love the feeling of being locked in high stakes. If I'm about to do a deep work session where I'm going to write code, I'm going to work on a project at work on my computer. I love feeling super locked in. And within cubing, I love this focus up, earbuds in, lock in if I'm going to solve big cubes. I find that for 5x5, 6x6, 7x7, lots of adrenaline helps me solve better because my mind is sharper, and because the solve is so long, if I'm a little bit shaky, I get used to the shakiness over the course of the solve, and the adrenaline ends up being a net positive because I turn faster with more focus. The having fun mindset is the opposite. This is a mindset of low pressure and not concentrating super hard on what you're doing. If you're just goofing off and there to have fun, you're able to let your instincts do way more lifting than your active brain. You're super natural if you're there to have fun because you're just being yourself. You're just goofing off. And if you're in a novel environment, you can soak it in way more. So the having fun mindset fits into my life in lots of places. Like if I'm going to Disneyland, I'm just going to have a having fun mindset. I'm not walking up to Disneyland with, focus music in, like I'm going to tackle all these rides and I'm going to do, like, that's stupid. I'm there to have fun. I'm there to goof off. It's low pressure. I'm just going to go have a good day. If I'm going to interview for a job, I have found that for me, having fun is way better than trying to be super locked in and super focused. Same thing is true if I'm going to do a podcast interview. I come across more natural. I don't come across as weird or intense. My instincts come over me much better, and I can soak in the environment. What's the other person like? What's the room like? When I was single and I was going on dates with people, same thing. I shouldn't walk into a date like super locked in and super focused. Just be loose. Here to have fun. Here to get to know this girl. With 3x3 and fast events in cubing, I have found for me that the loose, have fun mindset produces better results than the focused, locked-in mindset, which is super interesting because even within cubing, at one competition for 5x5, I try super hard to lock in and put pressure on myself and get my adrenaline going. And then for 3x3, I try to loosen up and goof off and have fun, not think too hard about it and let my instincts take over. Both of these things work, and it is different for different people. Figure out which of these mindsets you do better with for what parts of your life, and apply that mindset to your part of cubing. Different cubers do this. I've talked to cubers who talk about focusing up and locking in. I've talked to cubers who say, before my world championship final, I was just goofing off. I was just talking to my friends. You see this in competitive tennis. You see this in sports. You see this in the business world. You see this in politics. Everybody has different winning mindsets that they go into situations with. Find yours and use it well. Fourth, every solve that you do is separate. I don't have a slide for this. Okay. So I was talking to Max Park's dad before some of my rounds yesterday, and he said that something he and Mickey trained Max Park to do was when Max would do solves at home, he would physically write the time down on a piece of notebook paper, crumple the paper up, and throw it across the table. Then he would do his next solve. Then he would write the time down, crumple it up, and throw it across the table. Every time he did a solve, he literally would throw it away, not think about it, and do the next one. Even today, when I judge Max Park, he sits down, he takes his scorecard, he flips it over, and pushes it away from him. I don't know if that's part of this, but I copy him now. Whenever I sit down at a station, I literally take my scorecard, flip it over, and put it to the corner of the table. It's a physical and visual reminder to myself that every solve that I do is a new solve. The previous results do not matter. All that matters is what I am about to do. Fifth thing in competing well. Good stuff and bad stuff are just things that happen. Here's what I mean. In competition, your highest goal is to let your instincts take over. If you are actively thinking super hard in competition, you're going to make dumb mistakes because adrenaline and environment, etc., right? This is the having fun mindset versus the locking in mindset. If you're noticing something that you're doing poorly and you're thinking super hard about it and you're trying to, oh man, I keep locking up on my T-perm, I need to adjust my turning like this, That's going to override all your instincts and you're going to solve even worse. Remember, the work for this competition ended 2 days ago. You do not need to do more work to change yourself now. Just let your practice come through. Let your instincts take over. Same thing is true of solving well. If you're solving super well and looking ahead super well, don't hyper-analyze what you did and try to figure out how to repeat it on the next solve. Just, that was great. That happened. And keep going. Good and bad stuff just happens. Observe it like you're standing in the waiting area watching yourself solve. Imagine it from a third-person view. Don't get in your own head and try to reproduce it. Just allow your instincts to flow. Good results and bad results are just things that happen because of your instincts. Sixth, plan for nerves. The main thing for dealing with nerves is your winning mindset, but planning for nerves is also super important. Do not show up to a competition and go, oh no, I'm getting nervous. Oh no, my nerves are starting. Of course you're nervous. You're at a competition. What did you expect was going to happen? You're going to show up to this event that you've spent hundreds or thousands of hours preparing for and not get nervous? Of course there are nerves. Expect it. The other thing is that just view nerves, it's an external thing that happens. I am not failing for being nervous. Nerves are just a natural response to my body feeling threat or excitement around something that I care about. So when you feel those nerves, not if, when you feel them, do whatever helps you normalize back to letting your instincts take over. Don't go, okay, I'm super nervous now, so I need to actively slow my turning down or speed it up or control what. That's so silly. It will just make you make more mistakes. Do whatever helps you get back to allowing your instincts to flow. For me, that is to hype myself up, to listen to funny music, to talk with the people in the waiting area, just to loosen up and have fun. Other people, they need to lock in. They need to listen to calming music. They need to take deep breaths. Do whatever helps you. Allow your instincts to flow even through the nerves. I've learned for me, though, that especially with short events, fighting the nerves only makes things worse. The nerves are going to happen. I'm just going to do my best to solve as normally as I can and just let the results play out. Find your winning mindset. Let your instincts take over. 7th, at a competition, you need to know the highs and the lows that are going to happen over the course of a day. In the morning, the competition venue is probably freezing cold. Your hands are going to be cold and stiff. You're going to be nervous. People are going to be kind of jumpy because they haven't been around before. It's going to be chaotic because the venue is going to be packed full of families and their young kids who just came for the morning 3x3 round. The afternoon, you're probably going to be more relaxed. You're comfortable with the venue. You're going to be more alert. You've woken up. The coffee's kicked in. Things are also going to be really loud because all the kids are used to being there. Everybody's there competing in full swing. And by the end of the night during the finals rounds, you're probably going to be pretty tired. It's been a long day. But on the flip side of that, you'll be much more chill and much more focused. Most of the people go home by the end of a competition day, which means there's way less distractions in the venue. Know how you personally respond to each of these parts of the day and adjust accordingly. So for me, I am super alert in mornings. I'm a weirdo who rolls out of bed and like snaps awake, and I sit down at my desk at 4 a.m. and I'm so ready to work. But my fingers aren't normally ready early in the morning to compete well, so I have to do a lot of physical warm-ups to help my hands turn precisely in the morning. By the afternoon, I'm super physically warmed up. I'm still really mentally alert. What helps me the most in the afternoon is being calm and alone so that I can focus well when I solve. Socializing in the afternoon is kind of a bad idea for me, at least at a competition, because I'm already so hyper, I'm already so ready to solve, that I'm just not going to do as well if I let my brain get all distracted with friends and stuff. Occasional exceptions to that, but by the evening, I'm super tired. I am not a night owl. I do not make it through a whole competition day with huge energy. By a finals round, I'm normally tired. So for me, I need to put on hype music. I need to go get a snack. I need to go get some sugar, maybe some caffeine, whatever I can do to counteract what my body is doing at the time. Go to competitions and watch yourself. How do you flow through the waves of the day? Where are the rounds that you care about throughout the day? And how do you counterbalance the things that you have to fight against at those times? Number 8 with competing well is to go to multiple competitions if you can. The reason is that for short events like 3x3, the ideal scenario is I don't really care about the outcome. It is what it is. I'm just here for fun. Because then your nerves go away. Then there are no stakes around what you're doing. Reality is you can't do that. You're going to be nervous because you care about what you're doing. But the closest you can get to I don't really care about this, functionally, is there's always next time. Even if I fail today, I will have more attempts in the future. That takes so much pressure off this particular solve. Going to multiple competitions allows you to adopt this mindset, as well as getting more data on ways you make mistakes, how you respond to the waves of the day, how to set up your competition environment so that you compete effectively. It took me several competitions to learn the posture that I like, to find the seat cushion that I compete with, to notice when I need caffeine or sugar during a day to compete well. I learned all that stuff about myself through repeated exposure. So that is an important part of this process. That's everything I got. Kind of a long video, all over the place. If this was helpful, hit the subscribe button if you're not already, and share it with somebody you know who's trying to break a time barrier like this. Also, leave any comments if you have questions, and I hope this helped somebody.